Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the M&M podcast. This is your host, Manasi.
And this is Mehr. So today we'll be talking about, we feel that since September being Suicide Prevention Month, we really wanted to touch on like some causes of suicide and some symptoms so that you know how to get help or to help someone else.
Right. It is really important that you are aware of these, and this is just like a very high level basic thing to get you started, but it is incredibly important that you pay attention to these signs around you because mental health is a very serious issue, especially amongst teenagers.
And a very real issue because I feel like a lot of people discredit mental health, which leads people to just be even more depressed because they think that what they're feeling isn't valid and
Yeah,
that, yeah.
exactly. All right. So let's get right into it. The causes of suicide mostly is just feelings of depression. You're feeling hopeless, worthless, agitated, you're feeling isolated, and there could have also been a stressful event that could have triggered your depression.
And that stressor can be anything from like the loss of a loved one, breakup, like even just getting a bad score on a test can be a stressor if like you've just been sad for a long time and there's that point where something happens and you're just like I'm done. And then
Right, and
um
it's also important to understand that like the stressor doesn't have to be like one really big trigger that sets you off. It could also be a bunch of little things that just add up and make the person feel really worthless about themselves, you know?
mhm. And also what a lot of people fail to recognize is the fact that like mental disorders can also be like genetic in a way because if you have a family history of like mental disorders, substance abuse, suicide, or violence, it kind of like adds up. And because of that trauma, it can it can like pass on to you in a way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another point. Like, even if you have any other underlying psychiatric disorder, or like not you, but like someone you know has any other underlying psychiatric disorder or have some sort of substance abuse problem, this can add on to the recklessness and impulsivity to go ahead and commit something like suicide.
And like speaking on like familial issues, first of all, like I feel like this, especially in like 2021, but if you're like a part of the LGBTQ plus community and you just don't have like a supportive or family and you're kind of forced to stay in a hostile environment because a virus and you're kind of forced to quarantine, it can be like really toxic and really stressful, so that takes a huge toll on just like your emotions and your feelings, and that can, and if like someone is complaining to you about that, you should definitely like talk to them or make them feel valid because it can be really stressful.
Absolutely. And the hostile environment doesn't only have to be at home. It can even be at school if someone is bullied a lot or many schools do have anti-bullying policies, but even then, if you notice someone just isn't making too many friends, is always sitting alone somewhere, just reach out to them. Be that friend for them, because it can really make you feel very worthless inside if you see everyone else doing so well at school and you're just not, you know?
hmm Because I feel like, especially like if you don't have many friends at school and if you're kind of lonely and you find yourself like feeling like everyone's staring at you because you're sitting alone, because like then you should also like try to maybe not put yourself out there if you're struggling, but like talk to your counselors. Definitely, they want to help you.
Oh, yes, that is a big thing. Your school counselors, they will help you so much more than you think. Like their entire job revolves around trying to get you through high school the best that you can. So don't find it like awkward to go and reach out to your counselor because trust me on this, just talk to them and just talk to them about anything because it is going to be a safe space. They can't share anything that you say with them, and they are genuinely there to help you.
Exactly. And like a lot of people see counselors as like intimidating, scary people who you're worried they're gonna like judge you. They're not gonna judge you. Um, and like if you want to get some insight on like what a counselor like does or like their tips on mental health, do check out our past episode because we talked with Miss Williams, the Emerson School counselor. So Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't just have to be a counselor, even any other teacher or any other trusted adult that you feel can really help you through this. Um, or even sometimes it just feels so nice to just let it out on a friend. Like the number of times I've been frustrated at something with school and I just ranted on in like this 5-page essay to Meher, and that just made me feel better. It doesn't always have to be a counselor, a trusted adult, a teacher, but if it's something serious, if you notice something about yourself or someone else and getting help is necessary, then do talk to an adult.
Yes. We all do need a Meher in their lives. Anyways, moving on to the symptoms. If your these are like tiny things that you can notice in your friends that can help you figure out if you need to talk to a trusted adult, a counselor, or anyone. So, number one, like if they're just like super blunt about it and just being like, I wish I hadn't been born, or like saying, I wish I were dead, don't take those as jokes and don't pass them off like, oh, you'll be fine. Like, actually get them to talk to someone or talk to someone personally, and tell them, hey, you're worried about this person, because most of the time they're not joking.
Yeah, and I personally know that a lot of people do say things like this as like dark humor and pass it off as like a joke, like dark humor. But make sure that you really are drawing the line with where these go, because if someone genuinely was struggling and they were trying to find a way to just let it out without truly letting it out, and they say a statement like this, and you weren't able to identify whether they really need help or if it's just a dark joke, because a lot of people do pass off their depression as like, laughing but crying inside. It's going to be like a boy who cried wolf situation, and you won't really be able to help the person. So be careful when it comes to dark humor and jokes like this.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of that, I feel like another thing, maybe don't make too many like there are people, like I know a lot on social media, who like tell people to like kill themselves because um of like silly things or just as a joke, but you don't know what a person behind a screen is feeling and like what their mental health is, so you should refrain from that as much as
Yeah,
possible.
yes. Even if it's a joke, try not to go imposing these jokes and ideas on other people as well, because that's just going to make it so much worse. The
Mm-hmm.
next symptom that we have is all of a sudden going from super depressed to really at peace. And this usually happens when someone has really been struggling and they suddenly have decided that they are going to end their life. And that thought gives them a certain amount of peace because they feel like they're now done and they can move on. And so if you notice someone who has been really struggling with something in the past and now they all of a sudden are so at peace and so happy, that is genuinely really concerning.
Okay, can you transition?
Yeah.
Hang on.
And this sort of adds on to like if the person starts saying goodbye to people and really acting out their last moments of their lives in a positive way, trying to amend relationships, going out of their way when they haven't done that before, that is also a noticeable sign, especially if the person has been struggling a lot before and you know that they are going through something mentally, and all of a sudden they're super at peace and they're really trying to connect with people and saying goodbye and all of that stuff. Make sure you are reaching out to the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that goes with like changing your normal routines, such as like eating or sleeping patterns. Maybe it's eating less and just like sleeping less, and it's really noticeable that they're tired. They start having mood swings, being like super happy one day and then super like depressed the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And developing personality changes and like being super anxious and super agitated like all the time.
Yeah, and another one is when, because of these anxieties and agitations, they start doing risky and self-destructing things, like being really reckless with their life.
Yeah, this can be like drug abuse, and then also like increasing use of alcohol and just being like, you only live once, and just doing kind of everything when they usually aren't that kind of person. If you notice a pattern with these, it's that it's a sudden and abrupt change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say that because another symptom could also be that all of a sudden they're withdrawing from social contact and wanting to be left alone because a lot of people who commit suicide also feel like they're a burden on the people around them, because that's also a symptom of depression. And if they start feeling like they're a burden on people around them, then they'll want to like sort of withdraw and all that stuff. So I guess the biggest and most important point to keep in mind here is observe this, like with people around you, notice their behavior before and notice their behavior after. And if there is a really sudden change, a drastic one as well, and it's generally in a negative direction, then you need to make sure that you are reaching out to them. And if that is getting difficult, then you need to contact some adult that you trust.
Yes.
Did I sum that
So,
up for you?
yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and that's all we have for you on today's episode of the M&M podcast. New episodes come out every Monday. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you learned something and hopefully can take away something with you from our episode. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.
Bye for now.